because this chart probably saved my life. But this chart is showing, the arrow on the bottom shows that this was the lowest. This was the last week in office for me because of a horrible, horrible election where I got many millions more votes than I got the first time, but didn't quite make it, just a little bit short.
And the truth shall set you free.
Well, look at that. It's only taken 4 years, 34 convictions, and an insurrection. But it seems that Donald Trump is finally admitting that he did not win in 2020. Who knows? Maybe Trump let it slip that he did, in fact, lose the 2020 election, even though the rest of us have already known that for years, because of what Obama said at the convention, that he is, in fact, becoming stale. He's becoming that neighbor next door that runs their leaf blower all the time.
And most of all, Donald Trump wants us to think that this country is hopelessly divided between us and them, between the real Americans, who of course support him, and the outsiders who don't. And he wants you to think that you'll be richer and safer if you will just give him the power to put those other people back in their place. It is one of the oldest tricks in politics from a guy whose act has, let's face it, gotten pretty stale. We do not need 4 more years of bluster and bumbling and chaos. We have seen that movie before, and we all know that the sequel is usually worse. America's ready for a new chapter. America's ready for a better story. We are ready for a President Kamala Harris.
The fact is that Trump's recent rallies have been really a lot of rambling, sad, and even boring comments. And I don't think there's anything maybe more insulting to say about Trump for Trump than to say he's boring. Yes, being weird is also a trigger point. Well, you know what else was boring? His convention. Let's just for fun compare the roll call at the RNC to the DNC.
Delegates and alternates, let us commence with the call of the roll of the states.
Delegates, are you ready? Let me hear you.
Iowa, 40 delegates.
Dude, you gotta do it.
Got the beat.
I'm a never Trump guy. I'm a never Trump guy. I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him. I'm a never Trump guy. I'm a never Trump guy. I'm a never Trump guy.
Georgia. 59 delegates.
Fire, get out, another round of shots. DNC, turn out for what?
West Virginia, 32 votes. President Donald J. Trump.
A tale of 2 roll calls. The Democratic National Convention turned into what is usually a lifeless event into a party.
Well, J.D. Vance, not trying to be undone by Trump, shows himself to also be boring and not even be able to order donuts properly or interact with people.
The zoo has come to town. Thank you for letting us come in here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I'm sorry, man. Okay, yeah. She doesn't want to be on film, guys, so just cut her out of anything. Appreciate that, man. I'm J.D. Vance. I'm running for vice president. Good to see you.
Okay.
How long are you working on?
I've been here since the beginning of July.
Okay.
For this year.
Okay, good. How about you, sir?
Almost 2 years.
Okay, good. Just everything, yeah. I mean, a lot of glazed here, some sprinkle stuff, some of these cinnamon rolls, just whatever makes sense. How long has this place been around?
About 4 years.
About 4 years? Okay. How long have you been here?
A little over 6 months.
Okay, good.
I mean, your job as a politician is basically to interact with people, and all he can muster is an okay after asking essentially the same question to several donut workers. If boring were the only thing he was, though, that could maybe be okay. Not for Trump, but maybe for the rest of us. But he's not only boring, but he decides to insult so many different groups of Americans. The latest are ethnic immigrants, and he's offended by the fact that they live together in what he calls an ethnic enclave. Well, I don't know if you realize, JD Vance, but the reason why a lot of people from different countries happen to live together is that's part of our visa system. A lot of people come together because they get sponsored by family members. And hey, what a concept that family members may want to live near family members. Being a party that evidently cares about family values, now you're insulting the idea that families want to be able to live next to each other and support each other and be able to be friendly with each other. I just don't understand this party, and the insults that keep coming from Trump and JD Vance are just so hateful. The poll numbers for Trump are devastating. Harris and Walz in such a short time are gaining major momentum in critical swing states.
I will not cozy up to tyrants and dictators like Kim Jong-un who are rooting for Trump. They are rooting, she then reiterated, they are rooting for Trump. They are rooting for Trump because they know he is easy to manipulate with flattery and favors. They know Trump won't hold autocrats accountable because he wants to be an autocrat. I have to say, that little piece of analysis is something that almost never gets articulated that way. Instead, it gets described as something that's unbecoming or un-American seeming or puzzling.
Washington Post Ipsos poll. That is a dramatic turnaround. Harris is holding a 51% to 45% lead.
A couple of things, and I've really enjoyed everyone's comments on this. I have a little bit of a different take on it. So 70% of American Jews vote for the Democrats, and I believe that that number will be the same come November 5th. I don't think that any of this is going to make a substantial difference. I think that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have firmly stood with Israel. They have given all the arms that Netanyahu has asked for. He has said multiple times that he thanks the administration for it. And if people think that Donald Trump is going to be better for Israel, they have another thing coming. Because guess what? The majority of American Jews and also Israelis favor a peaceful two-state solution. And Donald Trump doesn't care about that at all. Now to the protests. So I think that it really suits Republicans' narratives that everything is absolute chaos and falling apart. What I have seen so far, and you even said in the first block, 10,000 people are out there. I heard there are 100,000 people. I heard it's going to be terribly violent. I just see a bunch of people marching around with their flags and yelling and appearing generally pretty silly. And they're also unified by everyone who has a grievance. They have LGBTQ plus protesters, people who don't think we have enough reproductive freedoms. So it's a big hodgepodge, and it's meant to distract from the fact that this party, my party, is unified right now. Kamala Harris has seen a 26-point bump in enthusiasm since she came in. Gen Z voters coming home, Latino voters coming home, Black voters coming home. And if you look at our issues tracker, you saw her cut in substantially to Donald Trump's lead on the economy. He can't win the election if it's just an 8-point differential. On crime, he's only up 5 points. That's within the margin of error. Immigration also getting smaller, their difference there. And she is increasing on where Biden was on issues like healthcare, climate change, and of course, on how to handle abortion. So it is not chaos here. It is not chaos here, no matter what you say.
The reason why there's no chaos there is because of the police presence and all of those places that had to be boarded up. Not a single place was boarded up in Milwaukee. We were
isolated in like a 3-block radius in Milwaukee, and everyone should check out the budgets that Donald Trump put forward and Joe Biden put forward, and you will see that there was more money going to law enforcement in Joe Biden's budget than there was in Donald Trump's.
His press conferences and his rallies are barely attended, and yes, are boring and rambling. But he doesn't seem to be too bothered because they have a strategy. In addition to what they're doing in Georgia, the Republican National Committee sued in Arizona, trying to disenfranchise 40,000 Arizonians who were registered to vote. They asked for an emergency appeal by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court decided in a 5-4 decision on Thursday. The fourth dissent was Amy Coney Barrett, who sided with the 3 liberal justices. What happened was that the majority allowed those 40,000 people who are already registered registered to vote, even though Gorsuch, Alito, and Thomas would have not even allowed that to happen. But because of Kavanaugh and Chief Justice Roberts, who sided with them, those people already registered can register. But if you're in Arizona and you have not yet registered to vote, you are now going to have to show either your birth certificate or your passport to register to vote. Now, I have worked on a ton of Get Out the Vote campaigns. It is so hard to ask people to take moments out of their lives to go and register to vote if they're not people as part of this community where politics are so essential. And now you're asking them to go find their birth certificate. How many people know where their birth certificate is? Or have a passport? A lot of us don't have passports. This is what they're trying to do to win in Arizona, because they can't do it based on all the insults JD Vance and Trump have, because of their total lack of talking about policy, because they're, yes, rambling and boring speeches. They're trying to take out the vote with their undemocratic actions in Georgia and in Arizona.
It's not about fighting socialism or communism or Marxist whatever. It's not about America first. It's not about some deep state that needs to be uprooted. It's about wanting our system of government to go away. It's about creating a sense of emergency, a sense of an enemy within, so that the public at large can be pushed and persuaded into giving up this system of government and just letting their guy, their real man, their strong man take over. And when that is what you are up against, no, do not be surprised when it turns out they're not going to respect election results, because they don't want elections to be the way we decide things anyway. Trump is now telling his supporters, you will never have to vote again. He's also, even more frequently, telling his supporters that he doesn't even need them to vote for him this time. He doesn't need their votes. Why does he not need their votes? Because he apparently thinks he can get back into power without them. Republicans really have stacked election boards in all of the swing states with dozens of officials who are bent on not allowing the certification of the vote totals in their counties, and thereby, hopefully, messing up the certification of the vote totals in their states. It is happening. And yes, Kamala Harris on the Democratic side, she really is running a juggernaut of a campaign. It is going to get turbocharged all the more tomorrow when she announces her running mate. But on the Republican side, they are doing something entirely different, which is not about winning the most votes. It is about stopping the votes from being counted.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.